Thank you. Please be seated. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first full council meeting of 2026. I hope everybody enjoyed a relaxing break over the festive season, and a very happy new year to you all. Item number 1, do we have any apologies? Councillor Bonser?
Councillor Martin.
Any more apologies? Apologies from Councillor Ingle, Celia and Phil Ingle. Okay, item 2, declarations of interest. Is there any declaration of interest, please? No, thank you. Item 3, minutes of the meeting of the council held on November the 19th, 2025. We will now approve the minutes of the November meeting of council. Would somebody move them, please? Councillor Peatfield, thank you. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Bolton, thank you. Any speakers? Go to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 4, announcements from the Mayor. Before I make my announcements, I have 2 housekeeping matters to share. As members will recall, a notice of motion related to a statutory public inquiry into the murder of Govinder Singh Johal was adjourned at the November meeting of Council. The mover has subsequently requested that the motion be withdrawn and not included on the agenda for this meeting. Where a motion has already been moved and seconded, the Council Procedure Rules requires that the consent of the meeting is obtained for it to be withdrawn. In the circumstances and to avoid any further distress to the family of Mr Johal arising from any resulting publicity, I have agreed a variation of the Procedure Rules to be allowed to be withdrawn to take place prior to the publication of the agenda. Secondly, I have accepted a late item on the Council agenda which circulated to you on Friday. At the meeting last week, Council Cabinet considered the calculation of the council tax base, which requires the approval of full council. The calculation must be approved before our February meeting, when we are due to set the budget and council tax for the forthcoming financial year, and therefore warrants consideration for a late item. Civic engagements. Over the festive period, I was pleased to attend many civic and community engagements that reflected the warmth, generosity and spirit of communities across Derby. These include the launch of the festive Derby, the Splendon Alight Lights and the fireworks event, and a range of seasonal activities bringing the residents together. I also had the privilege of attending the Youth Mayor hustings and election, supporting young people's engagement in civic life and continuing my regular role at citizenship ceremonies, formally welcoming new citizens to Derby. I was particularly pleased to spend time with local schools with groups and community organisations, including Cherry Tree Hill Primary Schools, Carols by Candlelight, a visit by the 135th Derby Scout Group, the Rotary Club of Derby's Christmas Tea Party for older residents, and a community Christmas meal organised by Carlisle Avenue Against Crime. These events offered a powerful reminder of kindness that defines the city of Derby. I'm grateful also to the Deputy Mayor for representing the city at a number of engagements on my behalf during this busy period, including care home visits, cultural performances, faith-based events and festive celebrations. I would like to take this opportunity to wish all councillors well for the year ahead and every success in the important public duties we are privileged to undertake on behalf of the people of Derby. Before I go on, my sincere wishes, best wishes, and I'm sure the House will join me in wishing Nigeria a good victory tonight against Morocco. Councillor Onu was emailing me earlier saying if they win, he's taking us all out for a few beers, so please, we're all rooting for Nigeria. So yeah, all the best tonight against Morocco. Yeah, I know, yeah, there's that as well. We do need to be on by it because I think the game's on at 8, so it's down to you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I would also like to place on record my thanks to colleagues, councillors, partners, agencies and local residents for their response in the recent major incident in the Vulcan Street area. Thank you to everyone who gave up their time to support those affected, ensure public safety and provide reassurance to the local community. I speak for all councillors when I express our gratitude for the professionalism, cooperation and compassion shown by all involved, and for the patience and resilience demonstrated by residents. This collective response reflects the strength of our partnership and the strong sense of community that exists across Derby. Now some very sad news, my condolences. Before I conclude, I'm saddened to report the passing of former councillor Robin Turner, who died in December 2025. Robin served as a mayor of Derby from 2002 till 2003, and was a long-standing member of the Labour Party, representing the residents of Sinfin with dedication from 1989 until 2018. Robin was widely respected for his strong sense of public duty and his close connection to the community. He served as mayor and represented the city with pride and dignity throughout his many years on the council. He was known as a committed and compassionate advocate for local residents. On behalf of the council, I extend our sincere condolences to Robin's family, friends and former colleagues, and place on record our thanks for his many years of devoted service to the city of Derby. I will now put the floor for condolences and reflections from those who knew Councillor Robin well. Councillor Peatfield and then Councillor Shanker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And obviously, I'm sure you can imagine we were deeply upset to learn of the loss of our dear friend and colleague, Robin Turner. And our heartfelt sympathy and love goes out to his wife, Janet, who also has been a very, very close friend of ours for all these years. Robin, as you have said, was elected in 1989, and that is when actually Derby City Council did not exist. Derby City was still part of the County Council back in those days, and Robin represented the Litchurch ward, as it was called then. And there are so many residents that we've spoken to since his passing who've passed on their condolences and expressed their sadness because they have such fond memories of Robin. They've mentioned Litchurch, they've mentioned Sinfin, Osmaston, people from Allenton as well, who all remember him for his kindness, for his hard work and diligence, and they remember him as being a really principled councillor as well. He really was a man of integrity and decency, and everybody liked and admired him. When he retired, it was a real honour to me that Robin and his wife Janet expressed to me that they wanted me to be the candidate that replaced him and stepped into his role, assuming that I had been elected, of course. You know, that gave me great pride because knowing his length and depth and breadth of service and knowing that he wanted to leave that legacy in my hands was something that I've never taken lightly. When he retired, we had a lovely little party for him in Sinfin, which was attended by many, many people, and he remained active and engaged with our Labour Party and fundraisers. And the most recent time that we saw him was when he attended the local park, Sinfin Moor Park, when we renamed and dedicated the pavilion to the Colin Attenborough Pavilion, because he was an active member of Sinfin, Friends of Sinfin Moor Park. He was there at the very beginning of that, and I'm sure that Baggy will speak to some of that, because it was before my time, but they love to show us the photos of him digging away and, you know, and making those, making such a difference to Sinfin and to that park and the nature reserve. And it's still going strongly and passionately, and they all pass on their love and condolences too. What I just briefly wanted to speak about was this photo here, which is when Robin was mayor, and in 2003 he awarded the Freedom of the City to Brian Clough. And that was, I mean, this was before my time, well before it, but it's a moment that he spoke of and that many people remember really, really well. A huge moment of pride for him to stand on that pitch and award that Freedom of the City to Brian Clough. And there is a video online of that moment that you can watch today. Looking online, it says that in 2003, the legendary football manager Brian Clough was awarded the Freedom of the City in Derby by the Mayor of Derby, Councillor Robin Turner, recognising his immense success in leading Derby County to their first ever league title in '72, a major honour bestowed by the city he adopted and managed. The ceremony took place at Pride Park with thousands of fans celebrating this unique talent who brought glory to the city, with Clough expressing deep gratitude for the honour in his adopted home. And that is just such a legacy for the wonderful person that was Robin Turner. I found that photo in our Labour group room and I pinned it on my board when we were using the former Labour group room, and I've had it with me ever since, and it's still on my pin board now as leader of the city while Robin was still with us. So I'm just really, really a wonderful memory that I wanted to share with everybody, of his, not of mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peatfield. Councillor Shanker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's with great sadness that I pay tribute to my dear friend and colleague, Robin Turner, who served the people of Derby, and particularly Sinn Féin and Osmuston, with great dedication and distinction for almost 3 decades, as we've heard. I had the privilege of serving alongside Robin for 10 of those years, and in that time I got to know him as someone with huge commitment to public service and absolute dedication. First elected, as we've heard, in 1989 as a county councillor for the old Sinn Féin ward, and later representing Sinn Féin and Osmuston from 1997. Robin brought consistency, experience and a deep sense of duty in everything he did. His mayoral year in 2002 to 2003 was a source of great pride for him and the city, and the reflections Councillor Peatfield has already made. That photograph was alongside Robin in his nursing home as recently as a few weeks ago. Robin was an engineer by profession working at Rolls-Royce, and he embodied the best of Derby's manufacturing heritage, something I'm sure everybody agrees with in here. His analytical mind, practical problem solving and belief in doing things properly made him an outstanding councillor. He contributed enormously to Derby's reputation as a centre of manufacturing excellence, and he carried that same professionalism into public life. He was also, as many here will remember, a man of great character and humour. No tribute to Robin would be complete without mentioning his unique approach to driving. Robin was renowned for treating roundabouts as optional suggestions rather than firm instructions, often driving through them or over them, and I don't mean mini roundabouts, instead of going around them. And those who ever parked near him or with him in the Assembly Rooms car park will know he considered the walls and the pillars less as obstacles and more as an emergency braking system. Somehow, miraculously, both Robin and his car always emerged intact, much like his political career. It's no wonder on Robin's many family holidays to France, Janet would drive and Robin would navigate. Robin was also a stickler for the English language. As a long-serving member of the Plain English panel, he took great pride in making sure council documents were clear, correct and comprehensible. And heaven help if anybody misused an apostrophe or tried to pass off any jargon as good communication. Many a report was improved and many a councillor gently corrected thanks to Robin's quiet but determined defence of proper English. Many in housing-related work will get a ticking off from me if they ever refer to a home as a unit, and now you know where I learnt that from. Beyond the humour, Robin cared deeply about his community. He was instrumental, as we heard, in setting up the Friends of Sinn Féin Park alongside a good friend of his, the late Colin Attenborough, and the work they both did to get that set up and what it is now will always be remembered. I visited Robin several times in this last year in his nursing home, and several times we would always be talking about his work that he did alongside myself to campaign against the awful Sinn Féin incinerator. He stayed up day and night during 2 public planning inquiries to make sure he made representation. He was right at the time, and both of us know that plant will never run again. It's just a shame Robin won't be here to see that when it happens. He listened, he stood up for residents, and he never forgot who he was there to serve. Robin retired from the council in 2017, leaving behind a legacy of service that will long be remembered. He is greatly missed as a councillor and as a colleague and as a friend. My heartfelt condolences go to his wife, Janet, and to all his family at this very difficult time. Derby is a better city for Robin Turner, having served it, and we're all poorer for his loss.
Thank you, Councillor Shanker. Councillor Graves?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was honoured to know Councillor Robin Turner when he was in this chamber, and I'd like to pay tribute to a man who gave of his time and energy and commitment to the service of others. Robin believed deeply in the community. He understood that local government is not about titles or recognition, but about people, listening to them, standing up for them, and working patiently to make everyday life better. Those who served alongside him knew him as someone who took his responsibilities seriously, who spoke with sincerity, and who acted with integrity. Even beyond the council chamber, Robin will be remembered for his kindness, his approachability, and his willingness to give up his time. He understood that real leadership is grounded in respect and compassion, and he lived by those values consistently. I'd like to extend my deepest sympathy to his family, his friends, and his colleagues. May we honour Robin Turner's memory by continuing in the spirit of service he embodied so well.
Thank you, Councillor Graves. Are there any more speakers? Okay, if there's no more speakers, please, I'd like you all to stand for a minute's silence, please. Thank you. Item 5, ladies and gentlemen, statements by members of the Council Cabinet. We now move to statements from members of the Council Cabinet. None have been received in advance of the meeting. Item 6, questions from members of the public. Next, we will hear responses to public questions directed to Cabinet members. 8 have been received prior to the deadline. When asking your questions, please ensure your microphone is switched on and that you speak clearly. Please remember that any supplementary questions must relate directly to the written reply you have been given and should be concise. So, first question is from Alan Burton to Councillor Shiraz Khan. He's not here, that's fine. Second question from Derek Gold to Councillor Shiraz Khan again. He's also not present. Third question from Brendan Connolly to Councillor Chambers. Over to you, Mr. Connolly.
On the supplementary now.
Yes, please.
Since submitting the question, I met someone who has attended your support sessions at the doctors, who has helped and signposted on various things. Will you be running any more events as this helps? And this help and support is obviously reaching people.
Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. Connolly. We haven't got the data from this year's benefit awareness support sessions, but we will have that in the next few months. It's funny you should mention the doctor's surgery, because we wanted to trial, or I suggested trialling a doctor's surgery in a primary school this year, because we're looking for different locations to try and reach people via the lift tour, which has been a game changer. And both of those were the highest attended venues. So we're looking to do them quarterly going forward because they've been so successful. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Next question is from Paul Tice to Councillor Peatfield, but I don't think Paul Tice is here. Next question is from Councillor Bacon to Councillor Onua. Supplementary, please.
Oh, you are a wit, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a follow-up question. Thanks for your response, Councillor. How much money did the council save by making this change, which made the waste management harder for residents? Thank you.
Councillor Onua.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Simon. I don't know about making it harder for the majority of the residents, but with regards to how much, I will ask the officers to get back to you with precise amounts down to the penny.
Thank you, Councillor Onua. Next question is from Derek Gould to Councillor Peatfield. I don't think Derek Gould is here. Next question is from Brendan Connolly to Councillor Kozlowski.
So if that's the case, I'm calling on the leader of Derby City Council, Nadine Peatfield, and the senior directors of this council to contact Sainsbury's to find the truth for the good people of this city, because it was not a simple mistake, but on more than double figure times, according to my friends who work there.
Councillor Kozlowski.
Thank you, Mr Connolly. So I'm Cathy Kozlowski, Cabinet Member for Governance and Finance, and I'll be answering your follow-up question. I don't want to comment on an individual case that you refer to, but I can tell you that the Council has no lawful basis to investigate the private conduct of councillors. The Localism Act 2011 is clear that the Code of Conduct only applies when councillors are acting in their official capacity. When evidence exists that a councillor was acting in their official capacity, the investigation of complaints is a matter for the monitoring officer and the Standards Committee alone, and not for a Cabinet member or indeed the Cabinet. However, whether or not it's a public or in a private capacity, I have every confidence that elected members will be held accountable by the residents of Derby and by their fellow councillors for any behaviour that fails to meet the high standards expected of us as public representatives.
Thank you, Councillor Kozlowski. Last question is again from Councillor Bacon to Councillor Onua. Over to you, sir.
Thank you for allowing me to ask a supplementary question, Mr Mayor. Thanks for your quite extensive response, Councillor, in relation to my question on food waste collections. The government's simpler recycling document states that windfall fruit, which is fruit falling from fruit trees, must be collected if it is put in the garden or food waste stream. However, collection authorities can communicate their preferred waste stream. Are you saying that the residents of Derby specifically cannot put that fruit in the garden waste stream? Because that seems to be at odds with the government's stance. Thank you.
Councillor Onua.
Thanks, Simon. I think you're asking a question that's already been answered, and I'll read part of my previous answer to you. Fruit and vegetable waste is classed as food waste, even when it comes from your garden, and should be treated in the same way as kitchen food waste. After all, it is food.
Thank you, Councillor Onua. Okay, item 7, questions related to Derbyshire Fire Authority or Derby Homes. None have been received. Item 8, questions from non-council cabinet members. We now move to questions from non-council cabinet members. 8 have been received on this occasion. So the first question is from Councillor John Wright to Councillor Swan.
Yeah, supplementary, please.
Over to you, Councillor Wright.
Yeah, thank you for the response to the question. It doesn't, however, reflect the number and severity of complaints by residents of Chaddiston about their bus services. So I wonder whether you could tell residents what you've been doing to address these concerns. Thank you.
Councillor Swan.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wright. As you know, I've taken these concerns extremely serious, and we can only do that when we get feedback, such as people in Chaddiston, such as Brenda, and other people who've had a terrible service from Arriva. I've written a letter to Arriva and demanded a meeting, and will also invite the Chaddiston councillors along to that meeting. Bus reliability is an absolute priority and has to be for Derby going forward. Hopefully, EMCA will allow us to have more funding that will enable us to do so much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swan. Next question to Councillor Peatfield.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Our thanks also go out to the hard-working teams on the ground, and I do appreciate the frankness of the leader's response that she's provided to me. But residents who relied on that statement experienced dozens of issues in our ward and in many others, and I resent any allegation that we were exaggerating this. So, Councillor Peterfield, I've been asked to ask you this by one of our residents. If you accept the frustration that was caused and that the replenishment was not consistent, will you apologise to those residents who relied on grit bins being full and found them empty?
Councillor Pitfield.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. I'm absolutely perfectly happy to apologise to residents that the information that I was given at the time was not the correct information that I had shared. And I completely accept that it fell below the standard that, that we expect. Ultimately, we have... Filling the grit bins is an operational matter. And you know very, very well that councillors do not get involved in operational stuff. It's not our job, it is officer jobs. And, we don't micromanage, we are strategic councillors. We're looking at the bigger picture, the higher picture. And so when something goes wrong, operationally, sometimes we don't get to learn about it until it goes wrong. And then all that we actually can do is correct it as quickly as possible to push for it to be resolved. And of course, there was the pressure of the weather arriving. So once we were aware, we have acted as fast as we can with the resources that we have and the officer availability. That said, the gritters themselves, we know they work into the early hours of the morning, and then those same people are being asked to top up grit bins because you can't employ somebody to top up a grit bin in the summer, for example. It has to be, a very, very flexible role. But we acknowledge and we apologise that it didn't go right this time. And we will be looking at reflecting on what happened, we will be reviewing what happened, but also reviewing the current policy. We will be making sure that that map is updated, and we will be looking at putting something in the budget to address any issues for next year.
Thank you, Councillor Peterfield. Next question is from Councillor Throwell to Councillor Swan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So thank you for your reply. It's great to know that some funding is going to be awarded to our ward. We know regular bus users will look forward to using refreshed and renewed bus stops. Can the Cabinet member just provide any assurances that the document will include timescales for improvements, please? Thanks.
Councillor Swan.
Yeah, obviously we're in a transition period at the moment as we go over to EMCA, the end of this month. As soon as I get timelines, I'd be more than happy to share with you.
Thank you, Councillor Swan. Next question is from Councillor Patterson to Councillor Shiraz Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 17 Naseby Close was purchased in 2021 by the council for £335,000. We are 4 years on, and that house is sat empty. It's just not acceptable. And every time I ask for an update over those 4 years, I keep getting told the same thing like the response tonight, which is that work is progressing to bring it back into use. And just to add some further context, so I bought a house a few years ago that I live in now. I spent a year refurbing it. And during that year, I received a number of letters from the council telling me, if I don't bring that house into use, they will look to purchase it from me. And I've sat in numerous meetings where officers have talked with pride about how efficient they've become at serving these notices on unoccupied homes. So it's not good enough. This is hypocrisy. This is do as I say, not as I do. The council need to get this house back into use ASAP. So can I ask the Cabinet member...
Councillor Patterson, just one sec. Can I ask you please to get to the question?
Can I ask the Cabinet member that he will ensure, when they say they will bring it into use early in the financial year, that finally they will? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shiraz Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Patterson. I'm glad you mentioned hypocrisy because you suffer from it quite well. And you've just said that the house was purchased in 2021, which means that it was within your administration control for 2 years, and you've done nothing with this. I was only made aware of this about a year ago in a cabinet meeting, and as soon as I was made aware of it, I instructed officers to sort out the complexities of this and either sell it or make sure that it's occupied. And as stated in their answer, as soon as the house is refurbished, it will be made available for tenants. Now, I can't sort of, I'm surprised, but frankly, nothing surprises me about your group anymore, because you bring casework here, you bring, regulatory matters here. You should have known about this case because it was in your domain. Councillor Hassel was cabinet member when this was bought, I believe. So, why are you asking things that he could have told you about? You know, in your own word, you said you've had meetings with officers, so you know the complexities of what there was some issues between who should pay for the works for this particular house. So, knowing all this information, you still chose to bring it to the full council just to get your couple of minutes worth of publicity.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Next question is from Councillor Holmes to Councillor Swan.
Wow. Anyway, yes, Mr Mayor. Many motorists have said that they feel St Hawkman's Way Box Junction is a council cash cow. What assessments were carried out regarding data to justify the enforcement, consider the visibility and signage of the yellow markings, and how does the Cabinet member respond to concerns that the council may be inadvertently penalising drivers making legitimate progress through a busy junction rather than deliberate contraventions?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Swan.
Okay, so I can't actually talk about individual cases here, but I can also say there is no conspiracy theory to trap unsuspected drivers. I also cannot be responsible for people who do not follow road signage. And the final part of your question was, do we have any data? Is that correct?
Justification data, signage assessment.
Signage assessments, everything else, as far as I'm aware, would have been done in guidance with regulation. But if you've got any particular concerns about anything, please just drop me a line, and I'm more than happy to respond.
Thank you, Councillor Swan. Next question is from Councillor Wright to Councillor Shiraz Khan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And thank you for the response. However, it doesn't answer the question. Do you agree that our green wedge and green belt require protection? Yes or no? Thank you.
Councillor Khan.
You've been given an answer, Councillor Wright, but it seems you want more. Well, you know that we're in the middle of reorganisation in terms of local government. When we pull together all these resources, it will go to AMCA, it will be their decision as to what happens, and if you need any further clarification, I suggest you write to them.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Next question is from Councillor Eyre to Councillor Onwa.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Noaha, for the answer. So the Oakwood Neighbourhood Board sought to purchase new grip bins about a year ago, but met such considerable opposition that it was dropped in the end. Residents in our ward, and I'm sure in many wards, want to see new grip bins, and at a time when we're encouraging increased resilience in our communities, they're a vital resource. So, can the Cabinet member confirm if the board tries again this coming financial year for grip bins to be placed on the public highway and will be flexible about the location of them, that we won't meet excessive or unnecessary opposition to this and that we can bring it to him if we do?
Councillor Onwa.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Like you, even in our ward, the neighbourhood board also tried to get grip bins, but we've been advised about meeting certain highway standards. So rest assured that as a cabinet member and also as a councillor who wants to ensure that residents feel safe to walk around when we have icy conditions, I would do my very best to ensure that there are no blockages to neighbourhood boards buying grip bins. However, we need to make sure that once they are bought, the highways can go around those grip bins, because as you well know, there used to be about 205 a few years ago that came down to about 100 because of these regulations. So I've asked officers to review not just the policy, but also just the map as well. And as usual, as always, I'm happy to work with you on that.
Thank you, Councillor. Our next question, and the last question, is from Councillor John Wright to Councillor Peakfield.
No supplementary question, Mr Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Okay, moving on to item 9. A minute extract, 1925 of the Standards Committee held on October the 28th, 2025. Review of protocol on the use of facilities, services and equipment by councillors. The next item of business is a minute extract from the meeting of the Standards Committee held in October. Having reviewed the protocol on the use of facilities, services and equipment by councillors, the committee are recommending some minor changes to council for approval that reflects current working practices. Councillor Prosser, as Chair of the Standards Committee, will you move the minute, please? Can I have a seconder? Standards Committee, Councillor Hassel. Thank you. Move to the vote. All those in favour? Anybody against? Thank you. Item 10, minute extract 8225 of the Council Cabinet meeting held on 12th of November 2025. Quarter 2, Financial Monitoring, Treasury Management, Mid-Year Report 2025-26. We now move to a minute extracts referred by the Council of the Council Cabinet. The first relates to the Council's financial position after Quarter 2 of the current year. As the minute explains, the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy recommends the information on the Council's Treasury management activity is routinely provided to Council. Councillor Kozlowski, as a Cabinet Member for Finance, will you move the minute, please? Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Yeah. Any speakers on this? Can we move to the vote? All those in favour? Anybody against? Thank you. Item 11, minute extract 113-25 of the Council Cabinet meeting held on the 17th of December 2025, Council Tax Support Scheme 2026-27. The second minute from Cabinet relates to proposed changes to the Council Tax Support Scheme in anticipation of the forthcoming financial year. The minute and appended report details the rationale and extent of the proposals. Councillor Dinser, as a Cabinet Member with responsibilities for this area, will you present the minute to the Council, please? Can you put your microphone on, please, sir?
And the recommendations as printed on the appendix of the council tax scheme. This particular scheme has been in place since 2013 and not been reviewed or updated. Our like-minded local authorities have a much more generous scheme, and this is to fall in line to make sure that the vulnerable, often working employed family council taxpayers can get the support they need and increase the accessibility from Band A to Band B. This will cost £1.3 million. However, it will also mean that lack of debt collection, which means that we don't actually get the income, will improve because people will be more able to pay. And this scheme will also help improve local government reorganisation in terms of making Derby City Council more in line with other local authorities that we may or may not merge with to produce a new local authority. So I recommend the recommendations and ask for the support of the Chamber. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Peatfield. Move to the vote. All those in favour? Sorry, Councillor Prosser.
So I just want to say a quick word, really. So I clearly welcome the assistance to our residents, but council tax has been a farce for a very long time. In paragraph 4.3, it says that 16,000 households now receive assistance with their council tax. That's 15% of this city. That's more than Elveston South and Elveston North combined, or the combined population of any two wards. It is pouring water into a leaking bucket, and we need to fix the problem. Are we going to keep increasing this till everybody gets support while pretending everything's okay? People in this city are struggling. Poverty and housing are our biggest issues, and we need real change from the top to work this out. We must create jobs, reduce tax, and make people feel good again. The exact opposite of what's happened under this government. Tax has risen dramatically, thousands are now out of work due to the last two budgets, and people in this city are hurting. This helps, but it's a token gesture and doesn't solve the real issues of this city.
Thank you, Councillor Prosser. Councillor Dinser, you have a right to reply. Do you wish to speak?
Yeah, I mean, this particular report is actually recognising those facing the cost of living crisis, and we're doing something about that. And it's long overdue, and this is a step in the right direction. It will also, by the way, mean that our council tax collection will improve, and that more people will pay, and we can actually target those people who cannot, or won't pay, as opposed to are unable to pay. So I think it's a positive scheme, and as I said before, it brings us in line with the generous support schemes that are available in our neighbouring authorities. And so I would recommend that all the chambers support this and the recommendations.
Thank you, councillors. Okay, right, can we take a seconder again, please? Yeah. All move to the vote. All those in favour? Anybody against? That's carried, thank you. Item 12, minute extract of the Council Cabinet meeting held on 7th of January 2026, calculation of council tax base 2026-27. The next item of business is the late item I referred to earlier, seeking approval of the calculation of the council tax base. Councillor Kozlowski, will you propose a minute for approval, please? Can I have a seconder? Councillor Hasselgrave. Any speakers? No. Move to the vote. All those in favour? Anybody against? Thank you. Item 13. Humanist representative of the Standard Advisory Council on Religious Education, SACRE. We will now receive a report of the Director of Corporate Governance, Property and Procurement related to the SACRE. Appended to the report is a minute extract from a recent meeting of the SACRE proposing amendments to its constitution that will allow for appointment of a humanist representative. The report sets out the additional information from officers in respect of recent case law in this area. Councillor Cecile Wright, as the current chair of SACRE, please can you move the recommendation of the report?
Yes, I'd like to move it, Chair.
Do you wish to speak on this?
Well, yes, I suppose I ought to say a few words. That it's imperative that in order for us to be an effective committee, that we get full representation. And I think I ought to correct that from what we've heard previously with respect to Robin Turner, that there's always been a representative, so I don't think technically we are actually making any changes. And similarly, with the Jewish representation, we have had a vacancy for a year or more, and I have personally met with the previous representative who stepped down to ask her whether she would reconsider joining, because it is quite worrying. In order for us to be effective as a committee, we need to have the full representation of those religious groups and none. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sira. Are there any speakers on this? Seconder, sorry, yeah. Councillor Aswood, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to give thanks to the members of SACRE who do work in an inclusive way, and this demonstrates that they want to actually be more inclusive in terms of reflecting all, as it puts, faiths and worldviews in their deliberations to establish what will be the curriculum for RE, which must be taught in all our schools, the agreed RE syllabus for the city, and making sure that is done not in a way which kind of has bias towards one religion or sets one religion or worldview against another. So the addition of a humanist, if they can find one, and I hope they do, will add to the richness of discussion which formulates a really important document which gives moral guidance with a faith base or not in terms of how young people and our future generations will actually conduct themselves in the city. So I am really pleased to second this particular item.
Thank you, Councillor Hasselgrove. Do we have any more speakers on this? Councillor John Wright.
Yeah, just to say thank you to the Chair of SACRE for recognising the absence of a Jewish representative. I know from speaking to the Jewish community, they are concerned at the moment about anti-Semitism, and particularly in schools, so it's welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Okay, move to the vote. All those in favour? Any against? Thank you. Item 14, update on the Council resolution, asylum hotels, planning and compliance and local housing impact. The next item is a report of the Strategic Director of Place providing an update on actions taken since the resolution of the Council made in September 2025 in relation to asylum hotels, planning compliance and local housing impact. Councillor Shiraz Khan, I understand that you will move the recommendation before Council on behalf of the officers who were tasked with undertaking the review.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is a planning matter. I'll move the resolution as it is and reserve my right to speak.
You can't reserve your right, Councillor Con. You have to speak now.
Sorry, I meant move the report.
Okay. Any more speakers? Sorry, can I have a seconder first, please? Councillor Peatfield. Any more speakers? Councillor Hassel, and then Councillor Prosser afterwards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and belated Happy New Year, of course. I thank officers for their time for compiling this report. However, I don't really welcome the resolution, the outcome that is presented in it. I think it speaks, Mr. Mayor, that to the frustrations of the public, that when the council goes through a due process, a motion is brought to this chamber, it's investigated, evidence is found quite substantially that we've got 2 properties in the city that are in breach of their current planning use, and the council's decision is to do nothing. No wonder people are disenfranchised and frustrated with the political system, Mr. Mayor. It just proves a point that people want us to act as their elected representatives, and we work with the system, and the system has actually failed the residents of this city. It's important to note, Mr. Mayor, and for those people in the gallery or watching at home, that on this platform, we don't have the right to question the officers who presented the report and who were involved in it. As such, Mr. Mayor, I do have a further recommendation under CP 42D, if that can be circulated, please.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Hassel.
I'll continue if I may.
Yes, carry on, thank you.
Mr. Mayor. So, yeah, the recommendation is fairly straightforward, Mr. Mayor, because of the lack of opportunity to scrutinise the decision that's been made. My recommendation here is that it is sent to the Community Scrutiny Board so that the relevant scrutiny can be made of the officers and the decision made and the process therein. And hopefully it can deliver some recommendations from that. I do think it's important that the public understand how this report was put together and why the recommendation to do nothing was the outcome. I do have to say, I do think while the reasons for the resolution is in the report, I do think it is slightly tone deaf on public opinion and public perception around the asylum issue. I think it's important to note that the council does want to regenerate that area and has got some massive planning ongoing. I don't think it would be prudent to have 2 hotels full of asylum seekers for investors to come flooding to the city to help us regenerate a much needed area that needs some investment. I do note in the report, Mr. Mayor, that the leader has written to government, but I'm unaware of the detail in that letter. I am aware that that letter was written prior to the outcome of this report. So I would say to the leader and the administration, actually, that the public will be watching here, and that we'll be watching with interest. And I do note equally that the government has announced that it wants to end the use of hotel accommodation for asylum seekers. No detail on that, but I think it's important that this council has actually done the donkey work and done the detailed to actually examine our current status, and we're in a prime opportunity to actually put a case forward that we should be at the front of the queue for any government intervention on this matter. I think there's a broader question in this as well, that it sets a very bad and poor and dangerous precedent in planning terms, that actually people can be out there in all sorts of establishments, not have the requisite or legal use for that property, and the council has basically said they will do nothing. I think that needs further scrutiny, further investigation, and that's what this this recommendation seeks to do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. So, Councillor Prosser, over to you.
Wish to speak on the amendment.
Sorry.
Councillor Prosser, are you speaking on the amendment? Okay.
Councillor Peatfield, do you wish to speak on the amendment?
I can speak on the amendment or to the substantive, it doesn't really matter. But I guess, you know, well, good for you in scrutinising it, because, you know, why wouldn't you? But actually, I'm surprised you haven't made an amendment to recommend it to the Planning Committee, because that is the body that is responsible for planning decisions, not this Cabinet. And you well know, because you were a former chair of planning, that planning is a non-executive function. And so your comments in the Derby Telegraph recently, such as a Labour-run council has chosen to do nothing, not because it cannot act, because it's chosen not to. You've also said it was a political choice dressed up as caution, and that we've shrugged our shoulders and said, let's carry on. Yeah, you're nodding. I know, these are your words in the local paper. But we have had no hand in this. This was a delegated planning decision, delegated by the Planning Committee to officers, because it is a delegated decision to review any breaches or potential breaches of planning. Nothing to do with the Cabinet member, the leader, the Cabinet, the administration. It is the Planning Committee, completely separate. And as you well know, we are not allowed to interfere with planning decisions. So you are either being willfully ignorant or willfully misleading the public on this. Is this your Epping moment? Because it feels like you've made an Epping mess. Thank you for that. Thank you for laughing at my little joke. You've already... Please don't interrupt me. I didn't interrupt you. The government has pledged, as you pointed out, to stop the use of hotels by the end of this government. So if your issue is our brilliant plans for regenerating the station area, that is not the issue either. I'm glad that you're going to go to scrutiny. Please allow them to look at and they can prove, as you obviously can't, they can prove that you have misled the public and that you are wrong in blaming the Labour administration for this.
Councillor Pearce, do you wish to speak on the amendment?
Just a point of order, Mr Mayor. As Chair of Plan Committee, can Councillor Peatfield just withdraw that statement that it came through the committee? None of the committee members... You can shake your head all you like, Councillor Peatfield. Don't interrupt me, because I'm speaking now. You can say it, and I'm saying it. This did not come through the committee. Withdraw the statement, please. Thank you.
Go on, Councillor Peatfield.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I didn't interrupt you, Councillor Pearce. Shaking my head is not an interruption. So you need to calm down and please let's keep
Councillor
it civil.
Peatfield, please, can you just come to the point?
I didn't say that it came through the committee. I said that, no, I didn't, Councillor Pearce. Stop interrupting me. Well, can I speak?
Guys, Councillor Peatfield, can you just come to your point, please?
Can I speak? Thank you very much. I did not say, please rewatch the video. That's not what I said. A delegated decision would have been made, and I didn't refer to which year that delegation would have been made, but it is a delegated decision to review any potential breaches of planning. That is a delegated decision that would have happened whenever. I didn't say your planning committee, with you as chair, made that decision. I didn't say it came through you or your committee specifically, but the planning committee has existed for a long time before you or me. Thank you.
Any more speakers on the amendment? Councillor Kerr.
It's likely that hotel closures are going to be starting this coming spring. And how long it'll take, we don't know. But at the moment, it's likely that it will be continuing the process as it is now. And I therefore ask that when it is being scrutinised, we should also think about what the advantages are of having asylum seekers housed in hotels. Because I think there are advantages, because people who have come here and who may not have English as a first language could be taught English, and they're all in one place. It'll be easier. There'll be larger rooms available where people could be doing that. And it's not like being in an HMO where you have to go and find the location where that English class is, because you're there already. There may be other advantages, such as teaching people about the expectations of standards of behaviour in the UK. And those sorts of teachings and opportunities we could be thinking about, and we could be working with the voluntary sector to help deliver them. So I'd ask that as part of this scrutiny we look at the positives and not just the problems.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Do I have any more speakers? Councillor John Wright and then Councillor Eyre. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to speak in support of the amendment, particularly the bullet point on gathering site-specific impact and the assessment. If I refer back to paragraph 4.2, the second bullet point of the original report, where it talks about the maintenance of a log, it states there was no incidents reported. I want to focus particularly on community safety, because after we debated this at council, I actually approached the Derbyshire Constabulary under a freedom of information request to ask how many residents of both of the hotels had been arrested for offences in the previous 12 months. And the answer was 16 offenders committing 33 offences of 8 different non-UK nationalities. So in the previous 12 months, before we debated it, 16 offenders residents at those accommodation. Now, I'd like to believe that potential offenders, A, listen to what we've got to say in this council, and B, act on it. But it seems to me absolutely incredulous that after that date, there are absolutely no crimes recorded, no offenders arrested by Derbyshire Constabulary. Now, we've got an ex-police crime commissioner in this council, and I'm sure he'd agree with me, that absolutely beggars belief. So I just cannot accept that the log of incidents was maintained correctly in relation to community safety. There's a simple answer to do that, is ask our analysts within the council to do a crime analysis of offending in crime in the locality of those hotels, or request a community safety partnership of which we're a member, or do as I do, ask Derbyshire Police how many crimes were committed in the locality, how many offenders have been arrested. Very, very simple to resolve this question. So I would like it to go back to the Communities Board and those questions asked before that board meets, and we'd have a definitive answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just briefly, as the chair of the scrutiny board that's in question, I welcome the recommendation that's before us. I welcome the opportunity for this to be properly scrutinised. And obviously we can debate at length which board we think it should go to, where we think it should go. If these buildings are being used for housing rather than for hotels, then I believe the Communities Public Protection and Housing Scrutiny Review Board has got the right to scrutinise it.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I fully support Councillor Hassell's amendment for further scrutiny. I think it's a considered way forward. But in the meantime, can I ask the Leader of the Council if she can consider formally requesting the Head of Planning send this to the Planning Committee for a decision on change of use? Seems to be a very straightforward way of dealing with this.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Chambers.
Yeah, can I just reply to Councillor Wright? So you did get that FOI, and I actually went to Derbyshire Constabulary with those figures, and they actually came back to me and couldn't verify it.
which is worrying because I take community safety very, very seriously. And I'm still waiting for them to investigate how you were given those figures that they will not verify to me because they're saying they're not the right figures. So as soon as I get a response on that, I will come back to you on that. And just a couple of other points, really. How long have these hotels been in Derby? You know, we've got 300 plus people in them. Where do we think they're going to go? We know we've got a plan in place that the government is looking to do. I've written to the government to ask when Derby is on that list, what the implications will be to the whole of the city. And I think we just need to hold our breath and just wait because we've had these hotels here for so long now. The end is in sight. So let's not rush a decision and put them where we don't even know they're going to go because we are going to be asked to house them. You know, it's as simple as that, really.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Councillor Shiraz Khan.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Khan, are you speaking on the amendment?
Yeah. I was just going to say, Mr. Mayor, that I have no objection to the amendment, but I just feel that Councillor Hassel is being disingenuous in bringing this forward. This is something that the Chair of Planning could have asked for without even bringing it here. And I don't know why we've had a meeting on this before, we're having a meeting on this or not. The Chair of Planning could have asked for this to be brought before the Scrutiny Committee, and they would have had the answer. I don't know whether Councillor Hassel is expecting the answers to change once it gets before the committee miraculously. I don't know. The planning officers will only give the answers they have, whether it's to Scrutiny Committee, whether it is full council, whether it's to the Planning Committee. So I feel that Councillor Hassel is a former chair of planning, and his own colleague, Jerry Pearce, who's the current chair, know fully well that a cabinet member, whether it was their administration, ours, or anybody else's, cannot interfere in regulatory matters. Now, if the Constitution allowed it, I would have interfered in that and said, look, we need to do this. But I've absolutely no doubt that had I interfered, they would have come back next month and said, we got a motion saying the cabinet member shouldn't interfere. So it's a question of, you know, whether you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. I wish there was some, you know, sort of motive that's beneficial to the residents of Derby in what Councillor Hassel is saying. But they're just coming here to have their 5 minutes worth and talk about things that could have been resolved very simply by Councillor Pearce writing to Paul Clark and saying, look, we need this information, we want you to bring it before a scrutiny committee. There was no need to waste everybody's time here. If all you wanted, Councillor Hassel, was to get your name in the paper, well, you already had it by making disingenuous remarks about, and you know it. I mean, I could have accepted these remarks from any other person who's never served on the planning committee or who's never been chair on the planning. Councillor Hassel knows. And yet he chose to go to a paper and tell deliberate lies, saying this administration chose not to do anything. Councillor Hassel, you should be ashamed of yourself, and you should apologise to this chamber and to the people of Derby and say, look, I got it wrong. You know, Cabinet can't interfere in this, right? Honestly, this is the second time you've done this, and I don't know whether you're thick-skinned or you don't have any shame in it. If you did, you'd be apologising to everybody and apologising to the people of Derby, trying to con them.
Clarification for
Yeah, can I just make a clarification on Councillor Chambers' assertion? I made a Freedom of Information request to the Derbyshire Constabulary. That Freedom of Information request was signed by the Freedom of Information officer, and it was endorsed, as you know, because I gave you a copy of it, as the release of information, accurate information to the public. So the person to go back to, if you want to challenge it, is a Freedom of Information officer. Picking a police officer from somewhere and saying, what is your opinion? If a Freedom of Information came to Derby City Council,
right, I think
we would go back to the Freedom of Information.
You made your point, thank you. Okay. Anybody else want to speak on the amendment before we move it to the vote? All those in favour of the amendment? All those against? That's carried. Thank you.
Right, back to substantive.
Okay, back to the substantive. Any more speakers on the substantive? Councillor Prosser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We always knew that this was the likely response, especially in the light of the Epping situation. But let's get this clear. To run an institution out of a hotel that is the equivalent of an open prison, where people are not free to move in, move out or work for a living, is a clear breach of planning. It's worse than that. The number of migrants in the hotels is just a fraction of the number of migrants housed around the city. Most of the rest are in HMOs. Every HMO and every residence used in this way as an institution or open prison is a breach of planning regulations. It appears that regulations only apply when it's convenient. I've seen it played out before with departments like DEFRA flouting their own rules when it suits them, and quite frankly, it stinks. To add to that, this city has a massive housing crisis. Rents in Elveston have tripled in many instances since 2018, as demand for housing has been exacerbated by government and council competing for housing on the open market. The success of Derby, combined with the government giving out over 1 million visas a year and welcoming illegal migrants by the score, means we are in desperate times. If the government close these hotels and push migrants into more HMOs, this will only get worse. As demonstrated by the council tax report earlier, many in this city can no longer afford to put a roof over their head due to government incompetence and mismanagement. The regulations were made to protect us, and if we can't enforce it through the courts, then we need to change the government, and that can't come soon enough.
Thank you, Councillor Prosser. Any more speakers on the substantive? Councillor Evans. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. For me, it's quite simple, really. This has been going on a long time under the current government and previous governments. And under our noses, they've used these hotels, and I believe one may be the Midland Hotel, the oldest railway hotel purposely built for a railway in England, the first one. And so people coming off the trains, that's what, you know, they can't stop there now, what was once a prestigious hotel. And so it's done deliberately, a long time ago, and they knew what they were doing. The government knew what they were doing, including the old Conservative government. They were breaching planning law and they ignored it. They used their lackey company, Serco, to carry it out. And this is where we are today. And in my opinion, we should have an injunction. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Do we have any more speakers of substantive? Councillor Charles, you do have a right to reply if you may wish to do so.
Nothing further to add, Mr. Mayor.
Are you sure?
I think I've possibly shamed Mr. Councillor Hassel too much.
Councillor Honour, we're getting there. Bear with me. Okay, all those in favour of the substantive as amended? Anybody against? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Okay, item 15 is a notice of motion. We will now consider a notice of motion received ahead of this evening's meeting in relation to the government's proposals for the introduction of a digital identity scheme. I understand that following the Prime Minister's announcement yesterday that aspects of the policy have been withdrawn, Councillor Fatt wishes to propose an alteration which is being circulated.
Remember, you're not time limited.
Yeah, well, I've got so much to say because it's all on there.
It's good stuff.
Kirk's on. Tim's having a go. So.
No, no, sorry, lost it. It's a long walk home.
Okay, folks. Councillors, the alteration of a notice of motion requires the consent of the meeting, which I will ask you to indicate shortly. Subject to agreement of the alteration, I will ask Councillor Falk to put the motion to council. Everyone agree? Anybody against?
Yeah, it would be nice. Yeah, do you agree? Yeah.
All those who agree, all those in favour?
I think we just need to clarify. There's some confused. Maybe we just.
Is everyone clear what's happening at this moment in time? Thank you. Do you.
I can deal with it.
Okay, you go.
Councillors, the Constitution requires that to alter a motion of which a councillor has given notice, already given notice prior to it being moved and seconded, that requires the consent of the meeting. The Constitution also says that the consent of the meeting will be given without debate. So you are being asked the question as to whether you'd consent to allow Councillor Falk to move his altered motion, which you have before you.
Mr Mayor, I don't know if it's a point of order, but maybe it'd be useful for Councillor Falk to explain what he's doing so that you can...
I'm going to come to that in a second now.
Yeah.
Okay, are we all in favour of giving consent to Councillor Falk to explain the alteration? Thank you. Councillor Falk, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. What it is, the amendment is the fact that, yes, last night the Prime Minister did a U-turn, and so I've changed the wording in my original motion. So that's what the amendment is about. It's deleting some words. Is that?
That's fine, thank you.
Councillors, so therefore the question is, are you happy to consent to Councillor Falk moving his amended motion? If we just have a show of hands, all those in favour. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 45, 26, 26.
Just a majority.
Just majority.
Any against? No. Okay.
Fine.
Councillor Falk.
Councillor Falk, over to you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It seems that the Prime Minister has heard about my motion and it prompted him to do a U-turn about compulsory ID. So I thank him very much for that. The word compulsory has been removed, but this is just a sidestep. This is going ahead, and whilst not enforceable, you'll need it to function in society. It will be embedded in everything we do: work, employer, requirements, everything. Healthcare, benefits, financial activity. This has inherent risks to security and privacy. Digital ID will still lead us towards a dystopian society which will be led by wolves in sheep's clothing. So I call for a formal opposition to any form of digital ID, to request the Leader of the Council writes to the Secretary of State setting out this Council's opposition and concerns regarding the necessity, proportionality and democratic mandate for such a scheme. Also, to request the city's MPs be notified of this resolution and invited to take it into account in parliamentary debate. Lastly, Derby City Council should not participate in, promote or subject any pilot trials or implementation of digital ID without explicit approval of the full council.
Thank you, Councillor Fogg. Councillor Cuss, as a seconder, do you wish to speak? Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Millions of people have signed a petition opposing the introduction of digital IDs. That alone shows how deeply unpopular this proposal is. The government has no mandate for it. Digital ID was not in the Labour Party's manifesto, so the public never agreed to it. We were repeatedly told that digital ID is needed to crack down on illegal immigration, particularly to stop people without legal status from finding work. But evidence simply does not support this claim. Countries with long-established and mature ID systems still experience illegal migration and undocumented workers. When it comes to undocumented workers, the problem is not the lack of ID, but enforcement. Dishonest employers already ignore right-to-work checks, and digital ID will not suddenly make them comply. The underground economy will continue as it does now. The government has said the scheme will cost £1.8 billion. And like many projects the government oversees, I would not be surprised if it will be a lot more. That £1.8 billion for a system that was meant to be compulsory, now it's not, and will neither reduce illegal immigration nor stop people working in the underground market. It is a complete waste of public money and should be scrapped. Let's have a look what £1.8 billion over 3 years could fund instead. It could fund 10,000 police officers. It could fund 8,500 junior doctors. And just imagine if that money were invested in local government instead. It would directly help authorities like Derby City Council deal with the pressures that we face today. Mr. Mayor, the digital ID scheme is ineffective, unjustified and should be scrapped. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cuss. Do I have any more speakers on this motion? Councillor Kerr.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, can I reserve my right to speak to later?
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Graves.
Highly unusual, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of the Council, I am in support of this motion and place on record our clear opposition to the introduction of any national digital identity scheme, whether it is described as compulsory, voluntary, or something quietly eased through the back door. In recent weeks, ministers have been keen to reassure the public via the press that there is nothing to worry about. We are told that digital ID will be voluntary, that it will be convenient, that it will begin with limited pilots, perhaps for age verification, access to services, or interacting with government online. But we've all heard this before. Time and again, policies that begin as optional, limited, or technical exercises quietly expand until opting out becomes impractical and then impossible. This council notes quite rightly that the United Kingdom already possesses robust, widely recognised systems of identification. Passports, driving licence, and national insurance numbers already enable people to work, travel, access services, and prove who they are. There is no evidence of a problem so severe that it justifies creating an entirely new centralised identity infrastructure for the whole population. What would be new, and what should concern every resident we represent, is the scale of data collection and control that a digital identity system enables. A digital ID is not simply an electronic version of a passport, it is a gateway to linking identity with financial activity, travel, online behaviour, access to services, and eventually permission. Even if today's ministers promise restraint, this council must legislate and govern for tomorrow. Governments change. Powers once granted are really surrendered. We're also told, again in the press, that digital identity will help tackle illegal migration or fraud. Yet the evidence from other countries is clear. People who enter a country unlawfully do not engage with official ID systems. They operate outside them. The burden, therefore, falls not on the criminals, but on the law-abiding minority. Lawful migrants already have routes to documentation. British citizens already prove who they are every day without the need of digital ID. This scheme does not fix a gap, it creates one. And crucially, there is no democratic mandate for this. No general election was fought on the introduction of a national digital ID system. No clear consent has been sought from the public. Instead, we see policy drift, announced in interviews, briefed to newspapers, and trialled through pilots that quietly normalise the idea. This is not how major constitutional changes should be made in free society. Public concern is real and growing. National petitions, civic campaigns, and grassroots opposition are not conspiracy theories. They are expressions of the public that understand instinctively that privacy, once lost, is rarely regained. Local authorities have a duty to speak up when national policy risks harming residents. This council should not be passive delivery arm for policies that undermine trust, erode civil liberties, or expose personal data to unacceptable risk. This motion does not reject technology, it does not reject efficiency, it simply asserts a fundamental principle that the state should not require a centralised digital permission slip for people to live their lives. Reform UK believes in smaller government, personal responsibility, and the presumption of freedom, not surveillance by default. By supporting this motion, this council sends a clear message that Derby says no to digital overreach, that consent matters, and that the freedoms of our residents are not negotiable, no matter how convenient ministers claim the alternative might be. I urge members to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Gibbs. Councillor Kerr, do you wish to speak?
Thank you. It feels very strange speaking after the speeches we already had from predominantly Reform councillors. When the Liberal Democrats come from the same view on this, we see this as a liberty issue, and we see it as something which privacy concerns are something which we should all be aware of. We need to look at the civil liberties issues, the opportunities that a giant database has for what could be in the future an authoritarian government are something that worries me. I think it's something that people in the US are currently worried about as well. There's also an issue of digital exclusion, that the people who are most likely to be unable to engage with a change like this are going to be older people, people who have lower levels of education, people who are on lower incomes. And it's therefore not in some ways surprising to me that the compulsive element of this has been dropped back by Labour nationally. The data security risks, sometimes it's government data that's being accessed, but bank data, big business data. However secure you want something to be, it is really challenging, and we know as a council that we are constantly looking at that as an issue for the data that we have to hold. The idea of all that data being held somewhere centrally in yet another database is quite worrying to me. How effective it will be, we've heard some views on that already, and the cost of it is really significant. I would prefer to be spending those billions of pounds on the NHS, frankly, at the moment. We heard in the news only last night how our local acute hospital is really struggling to make ends meet. Wouldn't it be greater benefit to the people of Derby to be able to fund our NHS properly? So I think I would like us to be writing, and I haven't done this as an amendment, I'm happy to do so if people wish to support it, to say We don't want this to happen at all, and could that money please go to the NHS? Let's thank the Prime Minister for having taken a step back and encourage him to step further back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Are there any more speakers on this motion? Councillor Peatfield.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have very few words, but the first would be to suggest that if Councillor Kerr wants to dictate where government money goes, maybe she should stand to be an MP and, you know, and talk to government about it, about where the money's spent. I just think that the government has dropped these plans. It's no longer mandatory, and you probably should have dropped this motion, to be honest, because it just doesn't feel like it applies anymore. It's no longer mandatory. There's going to be an extensive consultation. That's the opportunity to put in all of your opinions, however conspiracy theorist they are or not. But yet again, here we are debating a motion and something that is not in our local control. So it just befuddles us a little bit, really. And I don't have anything more to say on that. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any more speakers? Okay.
Councillor Prosser.
Councillor Prosser.
Thank you very much. This is still happening, and how do we know that compulsory digital ID is happening and at the top of the Labour Party's priority list? Well, it's because they've said it's not going to happen. That's how. Sir Keith Starmer has now made so many U-turns that he's dizzy from going round in circles. Is it so long ago that we've already forgotten the woes of the COVID pass? This will creep into everything. Access to our bank accounts, healthcare, restrictions on travel and purchasing goods. This will inevitably become a social credit system like China, where personal liberties are thrown away and people are fined instantly for jaywalking without even an opportunity for defence. In China, right now, you can be denied the ability to purchase goods and stopped from travelling away from your home. Whatever excuse made to justify it, this is not the answer. People that abuse the system will not be coerced into suddenly complying with the law. This will be a vast waste of money at the cost of personal liberty. The billions of cost of this scheme is money we need right now for our pensioners, our heating bills, our SEND provision, our elderly care. In 1980, Margaret Thatcher used the phrase, Labour's Orwellian nightmare. The reality of that message remains, and it must be stopped. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Prosser. Councillor Hassel.
Yeah, I'll be brief, Mr Mayor. I think this was always a monumentally bad idea, digital ID, and obviously it's sort of very 11th hour that the Prime Minister has binned it off. However, I do read in detail that there is some potential voluntary elements in this somewhere. Obviously, details to be confirmed. I think it's wise and prudent that this council protects the residents of this city from any form of or authoritarian sort of regime. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hassel. Are there any more speakers on this motion? Councillor Folk, will you sum up for me then, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, it's to be hoped that everybody will support this motion because the government is still doing it, whether they admit it or not. So, and who believes a word that this government says, because they've lied over just about everything. That
One second. Councillor Repton. Councillor Repton. The meeting's over there. Listen to what's going on there, please.
I know you might find it boring, Martin, but there we go.
Carry on, Councillor Folk.
So we need to just tell the government of our city's opposition to this digital ID because the government is still going ahead with it, and as Councillor Kerr said, data security, let's face it, if you can hack an M&S card, you can hack a digital ID card or the phone. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Folk. Okay, let's move to the vote.
Mr Mayor, can I call for a recorded vote, please?
You certainly can.
You want to know have we got enough people?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Graves.
Just bear with us.
Apologies, Mr Mayor. Councillors, when I read your names, will you please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as it is printed on the notification of alteration form that was distributed earlier. So first of all, Councillor Amin, please. Councillor Ashby. Councillor Bolton. Councillor Bonser. Councillor Kerr. Councillor Chambers. Councillor Dinser. Councillor Evans. Councillor Eyre. Councillor Falk. Councillor Graves. Councillor Hassel. Councillor Hazelgrave. Councillor Alison Holmes. Councillor Matthew Holmes. Councillor Hudson. Councillor Kaur. Councillor Jahangir Khan. Councillor Shiraz Khan. Councillor Kozlowski. Councillor Kuss. Councillor Lakin. Councillor Lindsay. Councillor Lonsdale. Councillor Morgan McGeehan. Councillor Mulhall. Councillor Nawaz. Councillor Anwaha. Councillor Pandy. Councillor Patterson. Councillor Pearce. Councillor Peatfield. Councillor Potter. Councillor Poulter. Councillor Prosser. Councillor Rawson. Councillor Repton. Councillor Ralston. Councillor Sandhu. Councillor Shanker. Councillor Smale. Councillor Swan. Councillor Truella. Councillor Whitby. Councillor Wilson. Councillor Cecile Wright. Councillor John Wright. And finally, the Mayor, Councillor Atwell, please. That concludes the voting. The motion is carried.
Okay, folks, that concludes our meeting this evening. Thank you for your patience as we've negotiated a busy agenda. We'll see you all in a few weeks when we meet to see the Council's budget. Thank you. Have a good, safe drive home.